Hi, Frank here from Plomin in the Istrian peninsula of Croatia. Plomin is where the family house is, so this is home base for me when I come to Istria. In today's video, I want to look at three Erie places in Istria. Let's go to the map here. I'll show you where they're at. So this is the Istrian peninsula, and up here is the border with Italy. So the places we're going to go to today are here, Kozliak Castle, out in the woods, Dvigrad, and a little north of Dvigrad, the town of Kringa. Now, being that I'm located here right now in Plomin, we're going to start with Kozliak, which is just up the road. You go to Vozilici, you head north from there, follow the signs to Kozliak, and there you go. So, Kozliak Castle was an important location here in Istria at one time. It occupied a strategic position overlooking the valley below, and it was on the border between the Austrian-controlled and Venetian-controlled territories. It was occupied by a number of important families over the years. In around 1600, the Barbo family took control, and Francesco Barbo in particular turned Kozliak into a center for Protestantism in Istria. Well, eventually the Catholic Church kicked the Protestants out, and then the Inquisition came in and finished the job up. Then around 1668, the Auersperg family took control of Kozliak, but by that time it was no longer a prominent location, and eventually it fell into disrepair and became the ruins, uninhabited ruins we're going to see today. Now from here in Plomin, if you look over the mountain over here, this is where Kozliak Castle is, right on the other side. So we're going to head to the car right now and take a drive over to Kozliak. Okay, here I am at the Zagrad. This is about as far as we can drive. From here it's on foot the rest of the way to Kozliak Castle. And from here is a nice view of the valley below. Very picturesque. So, got these big bugs flying around me here. Anyway, let's head on up this way and we'll go to Kozliak Castle. So, here we are at the castle. A few centuries ago, this was a pretty thriving place, a pretty important location actually. It did have a strategic place in the region, but now Nobody's here. It's abandoned. Just the ghosts. So, let's go take a look. Pretty eerie here. This is actually the only kind of maintained residence here, although from what I know, nobody actually lives here anymore. So we do got to be careful around here. You know, I've talked to people who have said they've seen the poskok, which is the horned viper. There's a lot of them in the region. You find them up in these rocky areas. It's a pretty venomous snake, but I've only seen once one of those in all my times here in Istria, but once is enough. But some people said they have seen them hiding in the rocks here, inside crevices. So, just got to keep your eye out. Here's the old well. And up there is the Church of St. Andrew. So, let's go up there and take a look. Okay, so here we are, coming up to the old church. Up there is where the castle itself is, and this here is the Church of St. Andrew. And there, see a little bit of shot of the castle walls above. It's hard to imagine that centuries ago there were people inside here, you know, listening to mass, and there was a thriving community. And now you just have the quiet solitude, kind of an eerie feeling. You can almost, in this quiet solitude, you can almost feel the energy of the ghosts of the people who were here. It's like they're kind of looking down on you. And here we go back to yes, this is where the priest had his room here and got dressed, whatever, and had his whatever supplies he used for the mass. Things were kept back here. So, that's the church, what's left of it. So now let's go take a look up at the castle itself. Let's go. So pretty rocky climb here. The stairs, there's not much left of them. And here's a little better view of the Church of St. Andrew, and then the valley below. Very nice spot, very picturesque. I love this shot. Still though, I got to keep my eyes on the ground because, like I said, there are those horned vipers around. Got to keep an eye out for them. So here's a pretty nice staircase going the rest of the way. Apparently a newer addition here. I guess they fixed it up so people won't be tripping over the old worn out staircase. And here we are at the very top of the hill of the castle. And as you can imagine, in times past, the vantage point this had and the way to overlook the entire valley and the strategic position it occupied at one time. But eventually it lost its strategic significance, so it fell into disrepair, like a lot of places, and time did a job on it. Not too much left of it. Okay, well, that's Kozliak Castle. So now, on to our next stop, Dvigrad. Okay, so this is Dvigrad. Dvigrad means two cities, because originally it was an Illyrian town built on two hills, so they called it Dvigrad, two cities. It's kind of out of the way. To get here from the town of Konfanar, when you're headed on the way to Rovine, you turn at Konfanar and you follow the signs for Dvigrad. So you'd come from this direction, from Konfanar up the road, and down here to Dvigrad. Yeah, there was over the centuries a lot of fighting going on here. Venetians, Uskoks, others fighting for control of this area. In, I believe, 1381, the Venetians took the town over, burned it down, and killed all the inhabitants. Later on, Dalmatian refugees fleeing the Ottoman Turks down south came up this direction and settled in Dvigrad. Then eventually malaria and the plague wiped out a good portion of the population, and around 1603 the last three families still living here moved out, and since then it's been a ghost town. So let's go see Dvigrad. So here's the main gate coming in off the roadway. There's a roadway you come down, and anybody coming through here would come through this gate. Go up here first. There's a nice shot. So I always like looking at things through a military history point of view. And well, anyway, there's my little guy. Got him with me today. But I noticed this here is a gun port for probably a cannon. judging by the size of the opening. And if you notice, it covered the roadway. Anybody coming down that roadway would be under the fire of this cannon right here. Now this is nice. That's a nice shot of this tower. It's still pretty well preserved. And of course, here's what's left of the outer fortifications, the outer walls. You can see the stone blocks here. So now coming up here behind the tower we're just looking at. So the back side isn't quite as well preserved. That's kind of precarious right there, those stones hanging over the side. I think eventually that structure's going to fall down. Hopefully not today. So these here were probably individual houses of the residents who lived here. Those would be their doors. Down there, opening onto was probably a street, which is overgrown right now with bushes and trees. And we'll head this way down this path and check out the rest of the town. Now here was another residence, I can tell. The wall has a slant, a pitch on both sides, which indicates where the roof line was. So here's all the pathways and streets people use to move around. There, another residence right here. It's hard to imagine at one time all these buildings were intact and this was a thriving community. Okay, here I can tell by the color of these stones, this is a newer renovation. They're trying to, I guess, fix some of the place up. But see, the newer stones are kind of a tannish color, and the old ones are gray. Again, these were all residences. At one time, there was apparently 2,000 people living here. And there must have been a lot of buildings, a lot of houses here, but most of it's broken down, fallen apart. You can just see basically the outline of the perimeter of each house. And we'll move on ahead. Okay, this is also a two-story structure at one time. I can tell by the those holes you see there match up on the other side with the other holes, and that's where beams, floor beams went inside, and then there'd be another floor constructed on top of that. I noticed too, all these houses have this little cubby hole right here with the little V on top and the square. I'm guessing there might have been a statue of a saint inside there, somebody to watch over the house spiritually. Just my guess. Now let's move on up here to the bigger structures. This is where the church was. Looking down into another residence here, again we see some of those cubby holes in the wall. Each one of these places seems to have one, so they must have been of some kind of significance at one time. Anyway, on the way up here, heading to where the center of activity was, probably the administrative location. That's where the town gathered, I believe, or this is a church, it looks like. Yeah, I believe this was a church. And this would have been the altar back here, I think, in this area. So it's hard to imagine. People came here and they cut these stones and they put them all in place and they built these structures and then they left. And then it all falls apart. Well, such is life. So, from the church, we're going to head down this way. I see a big archway up ahead. Looks like it might have been some kind of main entryway to the town here. And then we have a round column right here. What that was for, I'm not sure. It's probably the only round column I've seen anywhere in this place. And this obviously was one of the main streets coming up. It looks like it came on the outside of the town. Here's the outside walls on the west side of this town. Looking into more residences here, and so I guess people would come up this walkway here, through here, and then through that archway we just saw. So here's the other side of the archway, and it looks like the actual door or gate would have been right here. So coming up the road, you'd come here, and looks like on both sides here there's some kind of doorway at one time, which has since fallen apart, and it leads into this open area here, which also has another shooting port for shooting at unwanted guests outside. So now we'll head this way and out of the town. So I guess that gateway back there was not the main gateway. It looks like down here is the first gateway you would pass to come into this town here. And this whole walkway from here all the way to the town up there is covered by this wall here. See all the loopholes for guns? And this tower here. So this is the main spot right here. And from here, you head out onto the road and out of Dvigrad. So, next stop is the town of Kringa, where supposedly Europe's first recorded vampire lived. Let's go check it out. Okay, folks, here we go. The city of Kringa. This way. Well, I've been driving for a little bit here, and this town of Kringa is certainly out of the way. And the vampire, whose name was Yuri Grando, apparently picked a pretty good place to be a vampire. I mean, it's not even a paved road going there, at least not at this point. So, I'll keep driving. I mean, even the road getting there is spooky. Okay, folks, we're finally here. We are entering the town of Kringa. So, this is Kringa, where Yuri Grando lived. Apparently he died in 1656, and he was buried in the local cemetery. Well, according to legend, he wasn't dead, and he rose from his grave the next night, and he started terrorizing the villagers. And apparently this went on for 16 years. He would knock on your door at night, and when he knocked on your door, somebody in that house would die soon after. Well, finally the villagers decided they had enough of this, and I don't know why it took them 16 years to have enough of it, but anyway, they went with the local priest, and they went to the cemetery and dug up his grave. Inside the grave, they found him and his undecomposed corpse smiling. They apparently tried to drive a wooden stake through his heart, and it wouldn't penetrate. So another guy got a saw and just sawed his head off, and that took care of things. And apparently once Yuri Grando's head was sawed off, that was the end of all the night terrorism. It does look like a town a vampire would live in. So here we have two churches. We have a pretty cool looking one in the foreground, and then in the background the main church steeple you can see sticking up right there. Apparently the story of Yuri Grando was first recorded by a Slovene geographer named Janez Valvasor in 1689. Only 17 years after Yuri's head was separated from his body. Janez interviewed villagers who were well acquainted with the story and with Yuri himself. And apparently, the story of Yuri Grando was the inspiration for Bram Stoker's Dracula. Apparently there was a story written by Lord Byron called the Vampire, and that borrowed off the legend of Erie Grando, and of course Bram Stoker's Dracula borrowed off of Byron's story, The Vampire. So anyway, this is the place here. Okay, heading to the main church here, behind which is the cemetery. I don't think we'll find Yuri's grave though, because according to legend, his grave remained unmarked and nobody knows where it is. Here's the cemetery, and maybe, just maybe, Yuri's decapitated body is buried somewhere nearby. But I do know where his house is. One of the locals told me where his house is, and we'll take a visit there right now. It's right nearby here. So apparently, this is Yuri Grando's old house. That's where he lived. Also, according to legend, when he returned from the grave, he would often visit his wife at night, or widow, and apparently he did things that terrorized her and the kids. So her kids eventually ended up moving to Italy to escape their dad coming by and terrorizing them. Okay, so that's it for Klinga. And apparently there is a paved road getting in and out of this town. For some reason, the road I took was some back road, a dirt road. Anyway, didn't see any vampires here. Of course, it is daylight. But anyway, that's it for Erie places in Istria. And I'll see you guys next time. So that's it for Erie places in Istria. Too bad we didn't see any vampires. Did you see any vampires, Hunter? No. Did you want to see a vampire?
No.
You didn't. He didn't want to see a vampire either. Okay. Anyway, so for my next video, I'm going to look at Roman history in Istria, the Roman presence here. So until next time, if you like this video, please hit the subscribe button, and feel free to comment if you like. Anyway, I'll see you next time.